Hello everyone and welcome. Today we're going to be doing some maintenance on the wife's Hyundai Tucson. Okay, so let's get started by doing some basic maintenance work on this 2016 Hyundai Tucson. This is the 2.0 naturally aspirated motor. Some other models come with the 1.6 turbo, but it's all about the same. So let's do some basic stuff here. Let's start off by doing the air filter. Now this is super easy compared to many other cars. All you do is pop this open, undo these latches here, turn them down, pull it out, and your air filter is ready to go. Now this one is not too horribly bad, but I'm going to replace it with a new one. And these are the tabs, and it says right there, lock and unlock. You lock it when you put it in, you unlock it to take it out. Very simple process. I'm going to replace it with another Hyundai filter. This light is a little bit too bright here. Well, the box is kind of reflective, but let's see. Here is the part number, so you can get a good look at that. If you want to order original Hyundai parts, I tend to keep it OEM. It's just so much easier. You don't need to worry about anything going wrong, and the dealer can never say that you did something wrong because you used the original parts. Put the light back, and all you do is slip it in, hit the lock button there, hit the lock over here, close it up, and you're done. That's your filter all said and done right there. Now, one thing that I have on this car that doesn't come with the car standard, doesn't come with it normally, but these vehicles are direct injection, fuel injection system. It's a direct injector, and it injects directly into the cylinder head instead of into the intake. And the problem with that is that you can get a lot of oil buildup from the PVC valve going from the PVC to the intake. And what I did was I put a catch can on this, and I'm going to do a separate video on what a catch can is and how it can help your motor. But it can help to extend the life of your motor considerably. So I made my own. You can buy these if you want on eBay, but I made my own because I wanted to have control over the quality and how it worked, and I wanted to be exactly sure what was inside the catch can, because it can be critical and it can mess up your engine if it's not working properly. So I made my own, and I'm going to show you. I have it right under here. I tucked it right under here. This is the ductwork for the filter. It takes air in through here, channels it through there, and then into there, and into your intake. So this comes off. It has a couple of little tabs right here where my finger is pointing. A couple of little push pins right here. You just pop those out. Very easy to do. And you take out the ductwork. It just comes right out. And here you can see the catch can that I made. And I put it in there where it was a convenient place to put it, because it takes it from the PVC under here. In fact, let me pull that up and I'll show you how the PVC is. You can see here, that's where the PVC valve is on these. The 2.0 and the 1.6 should be about the same. So the PVC is right here. It goes out to my catch can, catches any oil and cleans up the air, and then it goes right into the intake right here. So this is a very easy way to route it. Instead of putting it far off somewhere else, I just put it in the most convenient place so it follows the natural flow of the hoses. And for those of you that don't think that catch cans are that important or make any real difference to these motors, I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to drain it out. And I drain this out every time I do an oil change. And I'm going to drain it out. I'm going to show you exactly how much oil this catches in just a few thousand miles. It is really considerable. So let me change the position of the camera, see if I can bring you in a little closer, and I'll be right back. Okay, I put on some gloves because we're going to start getting dirty right now, and who needs all this oily mess on your hands? So get a little container, and this, I created an entire system here to hold it in place. You can see a bracket back here, and I bolted it onto the frame right here, and that holds it in place. I can always pull that out if I want to, and let me see if I pull it out to show you guys. But this is the catch can that I created, and it's a little odd to show right now because it's attached to the body, but it has a drain plug on the bottom, and I'll show you this in greater detail when I make one. But right now, let's just drain this out. Let's just drain this out, and I'll show you how much oil this catches over time. Let's see, how do I get this? Let me get a smaller container. Okay, if I was doing this by myself, it would be a whole bunch easier, but since I'm trying to show you guys at the same time as I'm doing it, I gotta make things a little more convenient. So let's use a little tiny container to fit in here under the hoses, and then hold it with one hand, open the drain cock on this with the other hand, and let it just drain the oil out of there. And the oil is coming out. I can feel it. And see, you can see the oil on my hands. As soon as it stops draining, then I'll close it back up and I'll bring it up for you guys to see. And I'll try not to spill it and make a big mess all over the place. Okay, so I just finished draining and I closed the drain cock on it. Let me bring it up. And I'll show you right here how much oil. That goes to show you right there how much oil a catch can catch. How much oil can a catch can catch? There you go. Say that fast 3 times. So that shows you right there how much oil the PCV valve allows to go into the intake. And I'm going to dip my finger in there just as a gauge to show you how deep that is. Look how deep that is. That is a lot of oil that the PCV valve allows to go into the intake. And that just clogs up the whole insides of your intake manifold and the intake, what do you call it? Not rods, valves, the intake valves. And that just becomes hard and crusty inside your motor. And that's why it's critical to do something like this on these motors, because all this oil builds up on the intake manifold and the valves and all that, and it becomes hard as a rock. And this will basically destroy your motor. After a few thousand miles, I've heard anywhere from 60,000 up to 100,000 people start having problems with this, and the only way to deal with it is to tear the motor apart and sandblast the inside of it to get rid of it. So this is a cheap, inexpensive, simple little way to prevent that problem. So there you go. Be right back. So there you go. Now I took out the oil. The catch can is empty. It's ready to go for a few thousand more miles. And like I said, this is a very simple thing. You know, subscribe and stay tuned, and I will create another video showing you how to make one of these catch cans for a nominal amount. You can go buy these on eBay already made if you want to, and you can spend anywhere from $50 to $100 for these. I'll show you how to make one for a lot less, and you saw the efficiency of the way I create one. It catches a lot of oil. And like I said, this goes from the PCV valve here, catches and separates the oil, and allows the clean air to go into your intake. That way, this motor should last a whole lot longer. Should last me a few 100,000 miles, like it's supposed to. If it wasn't for the direct injection, the fault of it having that it does not clean after itself. There's a lot of videos on YouTube if you want to check this out. I'm just making a very simple explanation. But like I said, the port injected motors, they have the same process, but the oil does not stay behind the valves because it gets cleaned out by the injectors injecting fuel behind the valves. That's port injected. Direct injected, the injector is in front of the valve. Therefore, it can't clean the back of it, and all this goopy, junky oil stays on there, and it messes with your valve clearance. And that way, the valves don't close properly, the motor doesn't work properly, and you start having all sorts of problems, errors, computer faults, etc. with your motor in the future. The only way to deal with it is tear it apart and sandblast it and put it back together. That's at least a $2,000 repair right there. If you don't want to spend on that, right there, that's your solution right there. So let's get on to draining the oil on this car. Let's change the oil. Okay, so now we're going to go under the vehicle, and the first thing you got to do is jack it up, put it up on car ramps, do whatever it is convenient for you to get the vehicle high enough so you can get under it. The Tucson, like most modern cars, is very low, so getting under it without jacking it up is practically impossible unless you're very, very thin, which I'm not. So let's go underneath and I'll show you what you need to do. Okay, when you get under the car, all you find is basically a giant cover that shows you nothing and allows you access to nothing. So you need to open up this port area right here that I'm showing you right now. This area, take off all the bolts that go around it, and it will give you access to the filter, the drain plug, everything you need. So I use an air ratchet. You can use an electric one, a battery operated, whatever you like. Doesn't really matter. You can do it by hand if you want to. The only problem is it just takes a whole lot longer. I used to do it by hand, and I found it to be very tiresome. So you can see all the bolts right around there. And I'm going to start taking it, creating a shadow. So I'm going to start taking this all apart and showing you how it comes apart. Okay, I just wanted to show you the bolts here. There's 8 bolts that you need to take out to remove the panel that I'm going to show you in a minute. 6 of them are all the same size. There are 2 that are longer. One I take out, one I leave in to just make it easier, and I'll show you that in a minute. But the 6, doesn't matter what order or where you put them in. They're all going to the same place. The last 2, there's indentations in the panel that take the longer bolts, so don't mess those up and put them in the wrong place. Just a little footnote for you. Okay, so this is the access panel that you're going to take off to get to the drain plug and the oil filter. Now, like I said, there's 2 areas, that one right there and that one over there, that take the longer bolts. I leave that other one in, and I'll show you why right now. Instead of having to mess with this every time, all I do is I drop it down, and then I fold it back out of the way, and it just stays right there. So instead of having to fumble around with it to put it back later, I just, fold it back into place and put the screws back in their place. Much, much easier. So let's take a look up here and see the oil filter. The oil filter, nice and blue right there. Hyundai oil filter. I always use the Hyundai filters. And I have a little bit of a leak right there that I need to attend to. So I'll deal with that a little later. Why we have that's a coolant leak. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. And here's the drain plug right there. So let's get cracking on this. Okay, so for the drain plug, what you need to get it off is a 17 millimeter wrench. And I use a ratcheting wrench, which makes it a whole bunch easier. And we just get that off of there. Don't use an impact on these things because all this body here is all aluminum, and you can strip this out if you torque it too hard. So let me get the container under here so I don't spill. And it should be ready to catch the oil right here as it comes in. There we go. I already warmed up the motor, so the oil is nice and warm, and it flows out very easily. So I'll let this drain out for a few minutes, and I'll bring you guys back in a minute. Okay, so as you can see, the oil is down to a little tiny trickle, and I don't bother with trying to get it to stop the nothingness. So let's see, let's put this back up in here, close it up, and we can move on to the filter. And then we'll tighten that in just a moment. And don't over tighten because you could strip it. There we go, a little bit, just snug. And that's it, just snug. You don't want to go too far. And clean that up. Make sure we don't have any oil residue, or we won't be able to tell what's going on if we have an oil leak. So let's move on to the filter. Now for the filter, you're going to need a ratchet, and I use one of these oil filter cups, which makes it so much easier to grab it and take it out of there. So 3/8 extension, a ratchet, and see the filter's right there. Right there. Reach up there, grab it and turn it, and we pull it out of there. Okay, there's the filter right there, and you can see we just reach up and pull it off, and I have to make sure that it's ready to catch the oil because it's going to start dripping, and it does right away. There we go. And let it drip a little bit or you get it all over your hands. This is always a messy job. There we go. Get the filter out of there. Whoa. You're not making a mess. You're not doing it right. Okay, so there's where the filter gets connected to, and you can see it's still dripping down, so I'm going to clean it up right now. Get all that residue oil off of there. And always make sure that the filter flange or gasket has not stayed up there, because you definitely don't want that to stay on the body there, or it will cause a major problem for you. Let's see, light it up there so you can see. There. There's no, the housing is clean, and there's no gasket on there. So I'm going to have to put the filter on there quickly because this one keeps leaking or dripping quite a bit down. Now on the filter I use the OEM. Let me move to a different angle to show you that. Now on the filter I use the original Hyundai filter, and I don't know why I'm getting these lines on here. But on the filter I use the original Hyundai filter, so you can see on here. And let me get you the part number is right there, so you can see it in case you want to buy that. So there you go. Now on the filter you just take a little bit of oil, rub it on the gasket right here so it doesn't stick onto the block, and then you just put it back onto the car itself. So I'm going to do that right now, and since it's really messy, I'll bring you guys back as soon as I have it back on there. Alright, so there we have the filter back up in its place, and all you want to do is hand tighten it. Stick your hand up in there and just tighten it until you can't tighten anymore. And that's it. Don't use the cup or anything to tighten that more, because it'll be a real bear to get that out of there if it gets stuck on the motor. So hand tighten only, and that's it. Now we put the cover back on, put the cover back on, tighten up all the bolts, and we move up top to fill it with oil, and we're done under here. Alright, so here we are back up top, and now what you do is fill it up with the oil. I buy convenient 5-quart jugs, and it just makes it so much easier. This tastes like almost 5 quarts, but slightly under. So when you get down to the end, you just have to leave a little bit in the container and check the dipstick to make sure that it's filled up to the proper level. So then you just fill it up, and my light's a little low there. I can't barely see, so let's light it up a little better. And let me move the light where I can see more. There we go. And we're down to having almost a tiny little bit left. Let me put a little more. And that seems about right. Generally when I leave it down to about this part right here, this amount, the little bend in the container, that is generally about enough. It's the right amount of oil inside there. So all you do then is just close this back up, start it up, run it for a few minutes, make sure everything's fine, check the dipstick, make sure your oil level's okay, and you're done. So that's how easy it is to change the oil on a 2016 and newer Hyundai Tucson with either the 2.0 or the 1.6, either one. They're both pretty much the same, except one has a turbo and one doesn't. So hope you liked the video. Click that subscribe button so you can check out any other videos I produce in the future. And, click the like button as well. Any comments, any questions you have on how to do this, anything I missed, let me know. I'll be happy to answer it for you. So click that subscribe button, ring that bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye for now.